Okay, so Lori Wilde, the Christmas backup plan. Can I talk? A Twilight, Texas novel. And we're going to continue on. You know that my journey tonight is to finish this story with you. So let's hope that we can do so. On page 261, we're picking up from what I've seen. Remington shook his head ruefully, as if realization was something painful. That's part of your magic. Chapter 20, Blue Skies, a salutation among parachutes based upon a civilian interpretation of conditions for jumping. The wedding went off without a hitch. Olivia was a beautiful bride, and Ben looked totally smitten. Everyone was on their best behavior. The food was to die for, and the cakes were beyond gorgeous. Arya got so many compliments, she was thinking Olivia was right. Maybe her creativity thrived on chaos. When the DJ asked the guests at the wedding reception to welcome Mr. and Mrs. Benjamin Malroy to their first dance as husband and wife, Uptown Funk poured out from the speakers. She peeked across the table at Remington. He grinned at her, sharing their private joke. Remington, who looked stunning in a suit, started dancing in his chair to amuse her. And when the DJ invited people to join the bride and groom on the dance floor, Remington held out his hand to Arya. He was asking her to dance. She flew out of her chair, slipping her hand into his, shaking that booty in time to the music as he led her to the dance floor. But they only danced a few steps when Joel cut in. Arya protested, but Remington turned her over to him and quickly bowed out. What the heck? What was that all about? Why had Remington just let Joel cut in? I just had to dance with you, Joel said, leaning in to be heard over the loud music. Oh, no. Was Joel interested in her? She was trying to think of a diplomatic way out of this conversation when he said, Do you think I have a shot with Jana? So much for her ego. Arya had to laugh at herself. Joel's question stoked the matchmaker inside her, and she was off, giving him tips on how to win Jana's heart. After Joel, Roger cut in as the song changed over. Why aren't you dancing with Gary? Arya asked. He hates dancing, Roger said. No one has as much spunk as you do, Arya. Your feet will be exhausted tonight. Get Remington to rub them for you. She didn't bother telling him that Remington wouldn't be rubbing anything on her, that they were not a couple, but someone tapped on Arya's shoulder. She turned, praying it was Remington coming back to cut in, but it was Ben, who held out his arm to her. As they danced, he thanked her profusely for the beautiful wedding and making his bride so happy. Olivia, who was dancing with her father, waved at Ben. He blew her a kiss. Arya's heart melted. God, she loved weddings. And she loved her job, creating weddings, but she was letting herself get swept up in the festivities and neglecting her duties. She needed to make sure everyone was having a good time. When the song ended, she gave Ben back to Olivia and went to coax people off the sidelines, encouraging them to find a partner and dance. Several people asked her to dance, but she laughed and smiled and kindly told them that she had work to do. Some folks were deep in conversation along the wall and at tables. She left them alone, but those who looked isolated or out of place, she herded them on the dance floor and introduced them to others. And as soon as everyone had someone they were talking to or dancing with, she did one last turn around the room, and in the far corner behind the DJ and the tower speakers, she saw him standing in the shadows, watching her intently. Remington. She moved toward him, shaking her head and waving at the dance floor. A faint smile tipped his lips, but he didn't move to meet her halfway, instead letting her come to him. Stepping over the speaker wires as the DJ played the ambiguous YMCA, and almost the entire room was bouncing on the dance floor as she approached him. What are you doing way back over here by yourself? She asked. Watching you? Oh, she said lightly, but the feeling in the pit of her stomach was anything but light. His eyes were shining and wondered if he'd been drinking, but no, he seemed stone cold sober. That dress, he raked his gaze over her body, is stunning. Feeling self-conscious and not sure why, she ran a palm over the silky bodice of the emerald green bridesmaid dress, soothing out imaginary wrinkles that man could fry eggs with the heat in his stare. You're stunning. So are you, she said. It's fun watching you flit from group to group as if they were all flowers and you were a butterfly, infusing them with your energy and brightening up the whole room. You're electric. She felt her cheeks flush. Just doing my job. You're not. You're making people happy. You go straight for the folks who seem awkward, shy, or isolated, and you draw them out of their shells. It takes a special talent to do that, Arya. You're special. Because I'm the queen of optical illusions? What? He said. Earlier today you said I took a boring room and created an optical illusion. I meant that as a compliment. Did you? Remington looked sad. I know I have a reputation of being a crusty son of a... He paused when she frowned at him and finished the word with biscuit eater. But Arya, I love what you've done. I love how you can take something ordinary and make it extraordinary. Love? Her heart beat faster. Calm down, he said. Love your skills, not you. That thought produced so many crazy feelings she had to shake them off. You're giving me way too much credit. How so? Look around. You created this. His praise warmed her like a fire, and she couldn't get too used to it, or the look in his dark eyes. It's a wedding. People feel lively and inclined to have fun at weddings. I just give the reluctant ones a little push to get them started. That's it. He raised his eyebrows. It doesn't take much. Good music, wine, a celebration, and it's a party. Life with you must feel like one giant party, he murmured, but it was if he was speaking more to himself than to her. I don't know how. The song switched to Shut Up and Dance With Me, and Arya took his arm and firmly, Shut up and dance with me, Lockhart. Shaking his head and grinning, he didn't resist, prancing like a pony. She guided him onto the dance floor to join the wiggling couples. Eyes on only each other, they danced with every ounce of daring and flair they had up in them. Up for a waltz? She asked as the DJ started the song. She requested him to play on the playlist Crazy Love. He looked at her with such tenderness in that moment, Arya thought her heart had just cracked a little. Remington held out his arms, and she slid right into them like hot butter, as if she always belonged there. He wrapped his arms around her waist and waltzed her around the floor. Everyone else ceased to exist. They all were alone, just the two of them, twirling in time to Van Morrison's soft crooning of Crazy Love. Yes, this was crazy to think the feeling she was having towards Remington could turn into a long-term love. It was a road trip romance, nothing more. She knew that, and yet he gathered her closer, holding her hands in his. She craned her neck to look up at him. He lowered his head. He didn't kiss her, but his mouth hovered so close, a promise of a kiss. Her body ached for him head to toe. He was not a man who willing to embrace public displays of affection, and she was the wedding planner who adored PDA. She should be more circumspect, but how she wanted him to kiss her. Her nerve endings tingled, yearning, longing, buzzing with need for him. Here in his arms, the reception hall was a magical winter wonderland. The twinkly lights, the couples swaying in each other's arms, the lake glistening coolly in the distance through the window. They could be in some romantic movie where two opposites attract and the enemies could become lovers. Yes, all that made great fodder for romance fantasies, but in reality, it was the people who were alike that made it. Couples who shared values and goals and similar dreams. Couples who were so much alike rather than they didn't argue over every little thing, because generally they agreed on what was really important. It sounded like a theory that made total sense, except she couldn't help thinking about the couples she met in Armadillo. Pat, Audra, Hank, and Helen, Andre, Tanya, they all claimed that they were different as night and day. Their theories had been that you had to find the one right person. Everything else could be overcome if you found the one. As she stared at Remington's eyes, listening to Crazy Love, they stopped dancing, just stood in the middle of the dance floor, absorbed with each other. Without even kissing him, she heard the humming, the low, slow buzz that gradually gathered in intensity until the sound filled her head with a steady, rhythmic chant. He's the one, the one, the one. It could be so easy to fall for that myth, embrace the legend that there was that one right person for you, and when you found that person, you should hold on with both hands and never, ever let go. You know what? He whispered, lowering his head so that his lips brushed against her ear. The humming was like wildfire now, spreading throughout her body until every cell inside her vibrated with the strum. What? Her chest tightened with anticipation, eager to hear what he might say. Was he going to tell her he loved her? That all this time he'd been loving her from afar? That he wanted her more than he ever wanted to breathe? That he wanted to give up everything for her? Throw away all the backup plans in the world for her? Don't, she told herself, just don't. But try as she might, she could not quell the hopes that maybe, just maybe, they could find their way through their differences. And our whole trip has been just like this room, he murmured. Huh? She blinked. He was not saying what she wanted to hear, but she gave him an endearing smile anyway. Smiling in lightheartedness, her defense mechanism. Sure, it's all good. How's that? She asked cautiously, not sure that she wanted to hear his answer. You took something ordinary and made it extraordinary. Yes, he covered this already. What was this new point she saw in his eye? A wistful longing for things that could never be, and terror struck her. We made something extraordinary, she corrected. We, he paused, pulled his head back to peer into her eyes again, created a romantic mirage. But just like this room, tomorrow the magic will be over and things will go back to normal. Normal, she repeated past the lump in her throat. The humming was receding, taking the full body tingles with it, and where she once had a heart, it felt like a gaping hole. She'd been spinning romantic fantasies about a man who was still too wounded to believe in the magic of long and lasting love. She thought he'd made a lot of progress in that art class when he'd drawn his hand, but she was expecting too much from him. He was right. She couldn't fix everything with twinkle lights and tinsel. Arya, his voice was gravely with emotion, it's been so much fun living in a fantasy with you. You too. It was all she could force out, feeling tears press against the back of her eyelids. He told her from the beginning he was broken, and she hadn't listened. She dared to hope, dared to believe in the magical words that she created. Stupid, stupid. It's been great while it lasted. He was smiling so gently as if waking from a sweet dream, and he wanted to luxuriate in the memory of it. Yes, how could she argue? What if she told him she wanted more, and he didn't agree? No, the best course of action was to pretend she didn't care. She bit her bottom lip, hardened her chin, steeled her eyes. We can't live in a romantic fantasy, can we? No. Slowly he shook his head, and his expression bittersweet, but he was right. None of this had been real. Tomorrow we go back to our regular lives, she said with forced breeziness. Our trip will be just a memory. Yes, she bobbled her head as if she agreed. That's it. Should we talk about what happens when we're back in Cupid? He canted his head and his gaze hot on her face. What do you mean? She asked. Our families will be curious how things went. They'll ask questions. We tell them nothing, she said. It's none of their business. We'll see each other at the family gatherings, and we'll avoid each other the way we always have. Nothing's changed. She gave a little shrug as if it were that simple, as if she really didn't care. Or maybe we could tell them that during the trip we came to understand each other a little better, and we resolved our personality conflicts because we have. I understand now why you don't make backup plans. To what end? She asked. Huh? He looked surprised. Why should we do that? So that we can hang out without raising eyebrows? For what reason? His eyes rounded, and he looked at a loss for words. To be around each other? You mean have sex? He lifted his shoulder. She took a step back from him, trained her eyes on his, watching his reactions. Couples were moving around them in time to music, but she barely was aware of them. Right here, right now, he was the center of her universe. Remington, I have a question for you. What's that? Tell me the truth. Do you see any way for us to have a relationship based on anything more than great sex? He shifted uncomfortably, tugged at the collar of his dress shirt. Movement was an answer enough. Honestly? She almost said no, lie to me, but realized that being flippant was the way she protected her heart, so instead she simply nodded. Remington gulped visibly and splayed a palm on his nap. I can't say, Arya. Things on the road have been terrific. We had good times and we worked through the problems we encountered. I felt like you and I were a real team, but that's within a protected, starry-eyed container. Outside of our magic little box impacted by family influences. He shook his head. I have no idea if we can maintain this. Me either. He looked surprised by that. What? Just because she was a romantic and loved weddings didn't mean she wasn't a realist. He was not an easy man to love. He had a brick wall built as high as his neck. He had a lot of baggage that he needed to unpack from his childhood and wounds from his experiences in the military. And while she wasn't equally emotionally encumbered, she had her own problems with staying power, as any form of her former boyfriends could attest. Arya had always been the one to break up with them just when things started getting serious. Do you think? Her voice came out in a squeak. Yes. His stare anchored her to that spot. That you could ever fall in love with me. I already love so many things about you. He reached out to brush a strand of hair behind her ear, and his touch always electrified her. Damn it. It's not the same thing. Do you think that you can love me, Remington, even when I'm flying by the seat of my pants and have absolutely no backup plan? Even when I'm impulsive, flighty, and love Santa caps on armadillo statues? Arya, all I can offer you is what you see standing right in front of you. I can try, but that's all I can promise. She nodded. She suspected as much. Was he even capable of loving someone the way she ached to be loved? That forever after, complete acceptance, unconditional love kind of relationship? I hope you understand. To his credit, he looked stricken. Yes, I get it, because I don't know if I can fall in love with someone who can't embrace me, warts and all, and 100%. I think it's the best this way, she braved, before we get any more invested than we already are. People were two-stepping around them to George Strait's Christmas cookies and sending them curious glances. They were getting noticed. We should dance, she said, aware that they were drawing too much attention to themselves. This was Olivia and Ben's night, or get off the dance floor. I don't care who's watching. I do. That's one of my many things we differ on. People matter to me, Remington. I like making them happy. I like being happy. I don't know what to do. Arya, you have no idea how hard I'm trying to be a better person for you. That was it. He needed to change for him, not her. Yes, I do know how hard you're trying. You stop cussing in front of me. That tells me a lot about who you are, and I appreciate it. But Remy, I can't be anyone's backup plan. I can't wait around and be a second best solution until someone better comes along. I need it all. I need someone who can be the 100% in. That's not what's going on here. He shook his head. Isn't it? You know I don't have the qualities you want in a woman. You want someone methodical and dependable, someone who makes lists and checks them thrice, someone who cooks meals far in advance and freezes them for future dinners, someone who measures out ingredients instead of just flinging in whatever looks good. That's not true, isn't it? You want the kind of girl who always has a spare tire in her trunk and puts her faith in planning instead of other people. Sure, there's that sexual attraction and chemistry between us. I can't deny that, but it's not good enough for me. He wrapped his arms around her again and moved her around the dance floor. That the magic was gone and there was no getting it back. Arya, he said, I have just one question for you. What's that? She whispered, holding herself stiffly in his embrace. It's a big one. Her heart knocked. What was he going to ask? Yes. When I kiss you, do you hear that humming? Arya looked squarely into his face and told him the biggest bald-faced lie she ever told. She told it protect them both. Hitching a breath, she said in one long exhale, no. Uncouple, to release the connecting link between objects or persons. The tip of her nose turned red when she lied, and Remington realized mostly Arya was painfully honest, so he hadn't noticed the telltale sign before. Her face said it all. When he kissed her, she heard the humming. Looking at her now, he knew it as surely as he knew his own name. But she wasn't about to admit it. Why? She couldn't meet his gaze, her eyes gone vacant. She peered off into the distance as the music ended and the DJ took a break. Guests drifted back to their chairs. I have to go supervise the cutting and serving of the cake, she murmured. He wanted to wrap his arms around her again and kiss her one more time, kiss her until all she could hear was that legendary humming of the family's myth. Remington was not a fanciful man. He didn't believe in fairy tales, but damned if at this very moment he was praying it was true. Arya was his soulmate. The warrior in him scoffed at that. He was a realist, and fantasies had no place in his world, but the 10-year-old boy who lost his mother, the kid who spent his nights talking to his missing mom as if she could still hear him, wanted desperately to believe. Remington, she said. He locked eyes with her, his palms tingling with the urge to touch her. Why don't you go back to Cupid tonight? It's 6 o'clock now. If you leave right away, you can make it home around 2 a.m. You want me gone? She made a face. I think it's for the best. How will you get home? 2 of the bridesmaids are from Alpine. I can hitch a ride with them tomorrow, she said, not quite meeting his gaze. Boggled, he stared at her. She was sending him on his way? Man, she must be really spooked by what's going on between them. Really spooked. He forced a casual smile and shrugged like he didn't care. Don't I get a piece of the wedding cake first? I'll wrap a slice up to go. Well, okay, message received. She no longer wanted him around. I was teasing, he said. I don't want mini cake. It's too damn sweet. He almost apologized for saying damn, but what to hell with that? He was a grown man. He could curse if he chose. Okay, she said, but I'll stick around and help you clean up after the reception. She shook her head. No need. I can tap Roger and Gary to pitch in, Joel and Jana too. Look at you, he murmured. You got yourself a backup plan. Her smile was tight. You have taught me a few things, Remington Lockhart, and I'm so grateful for the lessons. Yeah, so grateful she was giving him the boot. Well, he wasn't a clingy whiner. He got the message loud and clear. Be gone with you and your bad self. I do appreciate all that you've done for me, but you're free to go. She waved a hand like a queen dismissing a peasant. Olivia bopped over to them barefoot in her wedding dress, and she kicked off her high heels so she could fast dance. Time for the cake, she said. Could you get everyone's attention? On it, the smile Arya gave her best friend was real, and like the one she swung back in the direction once Olivia headed for the groom and the cake. Everything inside Remington wanted to protest, to point out she was scared as hell about growing feelings for him and shoving him away, but he did not. She was right. There was no reason for him to stick around. He served his purpose. She had plenty of other people in her life who could and would help her out. Why prolong the inevitable? She decided that he wasn't the man for her, and it was a smart decision. He couldn't argue with her conclusion. Oil and water, that's how they mixed. I've got to go, she gestured toward the cake. I know. Then before he had time to think it through, he gathered her in his arms and kissed her, not giving a good damn who was watching. When he released her, she stumbled away from him as fast as she could, without even giving a backward glance. That was that, he thought. Remington went back to the Merry Cherub, gathered his things, said goodbye to the angels and cantrels, and hit the road home to Cupid. He had enough twilight magic to last him a lifetime. The next morning, Arya and the two bridesmaids, Jill and Paul, stuffed themselves into Jill's Mini Cooper and headed southwest. They had a terrific time gossiping about the wedding, the guests, catching up on each other's lives, and playing Christmas carpool karaoke. Anyone on the outside looking in would see three good friends having a fabulous road trip after the wedding of their fourth friend. They'd see their fresh-faced young woman filled with joy in the spirit of Christmas. What they might not notice as Arya lounged up in the back, wedged in between the suitcase, was the sadness in her eyes and a catch in her voice when she sang the sappy Christmas tunes. The car was lively and fun, but she couldn't help comparing it to the trip to Twilight with Remington. After Christmas, Jill said, we're hitting the road to Teos for a ski vacation, where we're going to celebrate the new year. Why don't you come with us? Paula invited. Things are always more fun when you're there, Arya. Once upon a time, she'd been all over that invitation. She wasn't much of a skier, but who cared? She didn't mind wearing cute snow clothes, sitting around the lodge, drinking hot toddies and eyeballing the ski patrol hotties. But now she wanted to go home and lick her wounds and see Remington. God knows she was staying as far away from him as she could get, which she considered she worked on Silver Feather wouldn't be easy. Please, please come with us, Jill wheedled. We've rented a chalet on the Lopes. You can stay with us for free if money is the issue. You'd only have to pay for the skiing. I can't, Arya shook her head. Vivi has 4 weddings scheduled in January, and there's too much to do. Wow, Paula turned around in the passenger seat to give Arya a pouty face. You sure have changed since college. Used to be the ringleader of our shenanigans, and now you're sedate, Jill finished. Arya shrugged, the feeling as if she'd come home from a long journey to find everything the same while she was a different person. Can't party forever. That's not what you said in college. Jill changed lanes, zipping past a black Escalade. Arya couldn't resist twisting in her seat to see if it was Remington. It wasn't. Her heart slid to her stomach. It's him, isn't it? Paula asked. What? Puzzled, Arya shifted to avoid the edge of the suitcase poking against her ribs. Who? The rugged, good-looking dude. What's his name? Winchester? Remington. Oh, yeah, I knew it was a gun name, Polly giggled. Either way, he's smoking hot. You've got it bad for him. Jill eyed her in the rearview mirror. No, Arya shook her head vigorously. Not at all. We're just friends. The kiss he gave you on the dance floor last night looked far from friendly to me. Jill buzzed the Mini Cooper past a slow-moving 18-wheeler. The driver was cute. Paula rolled down the window to wave at him, letting in a cold blast of air. The driver tooted his horn. Jill changed lanes to get in front of his truck. For a few minutes, Jill and the driver played games, slowing down, speeding up, exchanging honks and hot looks. Aria resisted rolling her eyes at the highway flirtation. Had her friends always been this so immature? All they seemed to care about were guys, clothes, and having a good time. Not that there was anything wrong with that, but come on, you had to grow up sometime. They were all 26 and not sweet, young, ingenious anymore. It occurred to her then that the people had been sending her the same message for the past few years, urging her to grow up and stop being so shallow and impulsive. Embarrassed to admit that she'd spent so much of her time gambling and cavorting, she covered her head, unable to watch her friends blowing kisses at the truck driver. He could be a serial killer for all you know, Aria mumbled. Lighten up, Paula said. Just because you're moping over Winchester leaving you behind doesn't mean you have the right to rain on our parade. Remington. His name is Remington. Okay, sheesh. Don't get your panties in a bunch. Paula made a face and turned back around. Seriously, girl. Jill turned her head to give Aria an exasperated look. You have got it bad for Mr. Firearm. Stop making fun of his name, Aria snorted. See? Jill arched her eyebrows. B-A-D. You know, Paula tapped her chin with an index finger and pursed her lips in a pensive expression. I don't ever remember you being so hung up over a guy. She hadn't been. In college, you were in love with him and leave with him type of. What was it they called you on campus? Jill furrowed her brow. Miss Hit and Run? Paula supplied. No, they didn't, Aria denied. Oh, yes, they did, Jill and Paula said in unison. Okay, maybe in college she hadn't been the most faithful person in the world, but she led no one on. She made it clear she was just out for a good time, and boy, she had some wild fun. But now, that kind of lifestyle no longer interested her. What interests you? The answer popped unbidden into her head. Remington. He's what interested her. Remington was a man of depth and substance, a man who had a hard side of the world and lived to tell the tale. A complicated man with integrity and character and a bucket load of scars. Did she really want to get weighted down by all that? Aria sighed. If truth be told, that's exactly why she sent him away. The reason she hadn't encouraged him when he asked about having a relationship with her when they returned home. He was as solid as a rock, as she was flighty as a butterfly. A butterfly couldn't change her colors after all. She was who she was. And Remington was who he was. And no matter how much she might be falling in love with him, no matter how good looking he was, or how great they were in bed together, or how loudly her head hummed when he kissed her, they simply were not a good match. Jingle Bell Rock came on the satellite radio. Jill and Paul burst into spontaneous song. Aria never once was the one to stay on the sidelines for long, so she joined in, pushing humor and joy into her voice to lighten the heaviness expanding inside her heart. For the days leading up to Christmas, Remington avoided the big house whenever he knew Aria would be around, which really wasn't that hard. He had a lot of work to do on his little plot of land on the west side of the Silver Feather, planning his retreat center for vets with PTSD. After his experiences in Twilight, he was more committed than ever to his vision. He already spoken with the architect, consulted a lawyer with the business side of things, and visited the loan officer at the bank. The trip to Twilight, the art class with Aria, had helped him take positive steps in the right direction to start dealing with what had happened to him in the Middle East. Aria had changed his outlook on the world and made him more open to continuing this sort of therapy, and he would forever be grateful. He was still healing for sure, and it would be for quite some time. But he had made big strides towards acceptance of his loss, and he couldn't wait to share his knowledge with others. It would take at least 2 years before the retreat was fully operational, but in the meantime, he signed up to train as a volunteer to a man hotline for vets in trouble, and he was learning the ropes. And when Archer and Ridge asked to help on the ranch so the hands could have a long vacation for the holidays with their families, he jumped at the chance for something to do, anything to keep from mooning over Aria. He saw her at the annual Exalte and Lockhart Christmas Eve party at Ridge Kaya's house, and it was unavoidable. But she stayed on one side of the room, and he staked out the other. She oohed and awed over the nieces and the nephews. He talked to his brothers about his project. Everyone asked Kaya when she was going to have the third baby. His sister-in-law rested her hand on her extended belly and said, "When the time is right, it'll happen." The answer satisfied no one because there was way too much truth to it. At that moment, he locked eyes with Arya across the room, hoping for any sign that she still had a connection. But she quickly glanced away, letting him know in no uncertain terms that she was sticking to her guns. What they shared on the road trip had been amazing, but what happened on the road stayed on the road. They were over. He got it. He wasn't upset. Not really. Remington was just, well, for the lack of a better word, sad. He missed her. There. He admitted her sweet original scent, missed her light, enthusiastic laugh, missed the taste of her mouth and the feel of her body beneath his palms. Because their extended family was so big, each person only brought gifts for the children and drew names for the adults. When Ridge, who was playing Santa, put Remington's gift in his lap and he saw Arya's name on the tag, he thought for one crazy minute that she got him something special. His hopes jumped, but then his gut clenched and he thought, "I got nothing for her," followed by immediately Anchor thought, "backup gift." During the holidays, he kept 2 gift-wrapped presents under the seat of his SUV, one for a male, one for a female. He almost hustled out there to get the generic female gift, a bath salt set, but immediately realized how lame that would look, and Arya, with those sharp brown eyes, would see right through him. "I drew your name." "Oh," he replied, and realized he wasn't special to her at all. "Open it," she urged, still sitting as far across the room from him as she could get. Family members were watching with an interested eye, and Remington hated the spotlight. "I'll open it later," he mumbled. "Christmas is about the kids." Arya forced a smile, but said nothing and quickly turned her attention to her sister Ember, who was holding her toddler on her lap, and she kept her distance for the rest of the day. Later, when he got to his house, Remington unwrapped the present with great care. Inside, he found a musical snow globe of Twilight, Texas, and a note that simply, "To remember the magic by." He turned the key and watched the globe spun and play White Christmas. A lump formed in his throat. Ah, damn, that song had been his mother's favorite Christmas carol. Was it accidental, or had she known? Carefully, he wrapped the snow globe back in the tissue paper, put it back in the box, and slipped it underneath his bed, tucking away his memories of Arya and their time together. Would he ever be able to look at it without hurting? And our phone is about to stop again, so this will be our stopping point. We'll pick